The saying goes that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and so, with the release of Lies of P, courtesy of developer Neowiz Games and Round 8 Studio, we may now have the most glowing tribute yet to Dark Souls. Built on Unreal Engine 4, let it be said that From Software fans will feel right at home with Lies of P's mechanics, its physics, its reward for timing a dodge to the millisecond, for learning an enemy's attack patterns inside out. It wears its inspiration on its sleeve, no question, but to play devil's advocate here, it's still a solid, well-executed recreation of a core blueprint we all know works. There are a few twists on the Souls formula too here, not least the setting. Lies of P throws us into the gothic, ruined world of Krat, with a tenuous basis in the story of Pinocchio. This certainly isn't the Disney take. In this universe, mechanical puppets have risen up against their human rulers. We face deranged creations like mannequin policemen wielding stop signs, robotic dogs, and rogue circus masters, and so, within that scene setting, perhaps the biggest draw of Lies of P is exactly that, letting a familiar Souls-like blueprint play out across a brand new world to explore. Coming in with a 36GB install, the focus today then is on the current gen experience, because to Neowiz and Round 8's credit, we've a luxury of options to try on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S. In fact, there's 3 modes to be precise: a 30fps quality mode, a 40fps high frame rate quality mode for those using 120Hz displays, and lastly, a 60fps performance mode. And to be clear, even the Series S version gets all of those options. So just what is the difference, if any, between the 3 consoles running at their best in the quality mode? What are the sacrifices for running on the performance setting to get to 60fps in image quality and features next to the quality mode? And lastly, does Lies of P truly hold to a solid 60fps with this setting in place? Let's find out. Let's kick off then with a look at the 3 machines in comparison. The first thing to point out is the resolution difference in quality mode, the 30fps mode that targets higher visual settings on each. On PS5 and Series X, we're getting a practically fixed 4K with quality mode in place, no deviations underneath 3840x2160 so far, in other words, based on numerous pixel tests. And Series S stacks up well by comparison with a native 1440p image on quality mode, while temporal anti-aliasing clears up any noise in its upscale to 4K. So all round, the turnout in image quality on Series S does look superb despite the 4 teraflop profile of the machine itself. And in almost every other respect, the 3 are a match in core visual settings. In texture quality, each uses the same assets, while shadows and geometry detail across Lies of P's cobblestone streets are on par. With all of that being said, Xbox Series S does still miss out on certain visual features. Certainly, PS5 and Series X are a pixel match in the final image. However, even on quality mode, Series S runs at a lower grade ambient occlusion setting, while volumetric fog is reduced in certain scenes. Let's pit Series S directly against Series X here for clarity. Note the hotel lobby area has a slight haze near the stairwell ahead, rising dust. That's pared back in intensity on the left side, and likewise, across the rainy streets, we see a reduction in volumetric fog towards the distance beyond the fountain next to Series X's use of the effect. In some cases, it's a dramatic change, in others more subtle. It's also here we see a reduction in shading across the floor. The floor is lighter, brighter on the 4 teraflop machine on left, and while screen space reflections, SSR, is maintained for puddles, it's also clear that Series X's quality mode has a richer spread of indirect shadow bounds across the scene. It adds depth in between objects, the plants, the character, and across interiors especially. It's a noticeable difference. And all of the benefits on Series X here apply to PS5's quality mode too. The upshot then is that Series S does look superb on its own terms. It's only in comparison that these differences truly notice, but it certainly holds its own in isolation. Now, if we jump to performance testing on this 30fps quality mode, there isn't anything to split the 3 in terms of how they play. PS5, Series X, and S all run with a fixed 30fps cap through the game's opening chapters. From the station to the factory, each one hits the mark. It must be said, Lies of P is well optimized to any target frame rate, whatever that may be. 30, 40, 60 FPS depending on the mode, all consoles nailed their frame rate. And yes, that applies to Series S as well. The reading is a flat 30 on the quality mode here, where even teaming up with assist characters in effects-heavy boss battles doesn't move the needle. The one obvious drawback though, and you've noticed this no doubt, is the uneven frame pacing. Despite being perfectly fixed at that 30 FPS line, the ordering of frames is often erratic on the frame time graph on left. The camera motion, the animations, all look less smooth than they should, and this applies to every console, PS5, Series X, and S. Sadly, it's a design flaw that echoes what we so often see in Souls games of old, especially efforts on last gen, like Bloodborne on PS4. And so it does end up detracting from how Lies of P looks in motion, using this quality mode anyway. Thankfully then, Lies of P has plenty of other modes. On PS5, Series X and S, we have a high frame rate toggle, which only works with quality mode selected. In short, this keeps the quality mode visual settings in place, except that the frame rate target rises to 40 FPS instead. It needs a connected 120Hz display to work, but yes, 40 FPS divides into a 120Hz container neatly. And in theory, the increase in frames rendered improves the flow of motion over the regular 30 FPS, while also improving input latency. The only catch is that, yes, even at 40 FPS, all three machines still suffer from uneven frame pacing. Given the choice of these first two options, this is the better route to take though. It's smoother, but certainly not problem solved. Also, the other sacrifice is that the high frame rate quality mode no longer typically runs at each console's target resolution. We get a dynamic spread of numbers instead, based on GPU load. So on PS5 for example, it runs at a range of 1872p up to 4K, and likewise we get the same spread on Series X. Lower numbers are possible. And meanwhile, Series S has a range of pixel counts between 1200p up to the target maximum 1440p. The final option to check out is of course the 60 FPS performance mode. This is the default setting on PS5, Series X and S, and it makes sense from a playability perspective. Right away, and of course there are no frame pacing issues here whatsoever, owing to it maxing out every screen refresh with a new frame. You get 60 refreshes a second and 60 unique frames. Now, there are some oddities here in how the game logic works even at 60 FPS. Physics-based elements, for example, like cloth, still animate at 30 FPS, so check out the half refresh animation of the flags above us, which looks slightly jarring. But this is a nitpick. The good news is every console here truly delivers a flat 60 FPS line, making combat, the camera, infinitely smoother in motion. Even Series S comes through with a perfect 60 FPS line across a breadth of boss battles, at least based on the first few hours of play. Really, this is an easy one to recommend. Set and forget the performance mode in the menus once you beat the game, and enjoy Lies of P as it should be played. So, is there any sacrifice for running on the performance mode here? There has to be a catch, and first up is inevitably the resolution itself, which drops on every platform. On PS5 and Series X, for example, we're looking at a range between 1512p up to 1800p at peak. Both machines do hold up well in the final resolved image, with TAA cleaning up the base image, but there's no escaping the fact that each now renders a sub 4K native picture to achieve 60 FPS. And then we have Series S, which in this case runs between 972p up to a new max target of 1080p. All to the end of hitting 60 FPS, this is absolutely worth the trade-off, I think. But there is one further sacrifice in visual settings here when looking at the two premium machines. The high shading and volumetric fog quality on PS5 and Series X seen in their quality modes is dropped on this 60 FPS performance mode. Taking Series X in example and switching between performance and quality modes, you'll see most visual settings revert to the Series S setting. The fog, the high-grade shading which gives environments that rich, inky black depth, and even SSR all appear to be affected. And while I've yet to find any mention or evidence of ray tracing features in Lies of P, it does appear there's a simulated global illumination setting, a color bounce from those blue respawn points for example, that only engages on quality mode. It changes the hue of certain environments, but all of this is removed with that performance mode engaged on Series X, and the same goes for PS5. The mist in the opening areas, the deep pockets of shade, are relaxed for a lighter, less atmospheric result. The trade-off being, you get a clean 60fps readout versus an unevenly frame-paced 30fps with all of these settings engaged. In the long term, it's hard to ignore the 60fps mode, where every frame counts in timing a dodge, and at the very least, we have the option here to pick our preferred way to play. Even with its clear Dark Souls influence, Lies of P is still worth checking out. All of the current gen machines offer a superb way to jump into the experience, with 3 modes that each justify their place in the options menu. Each has a purpose, a clear benefit, and trade-off. The only hang-up is the uneven frame pacing on its quality and high frame rate quality modes, the 30 and 40 FPS caps. But given there's a 60 FPS option on every console, even Series S, given it still looks great despite the visual drawbacks to achieve 60, it's hard to complain given how well it runs. Also impressive is that while running on performance mode, Series S retains most visual features of the more powerful PS5 and Series X, including SSR. It's all round a well-balanced, well-optimized game on every console and every mode. And even if it does follow a well-known template, sticking the landing as well as Lies of P does on the technical front is no small feat. But that's all from me today. If you did enjoy this quick breakdown of Lies of P, do let me know by liking or subscribing, and don't forget to hit that bell for instant notifications as any new video lands. To get a high quality version of this video, check out our Patreon at digitalfoundry.net, and to get in touch directly, you know where to find me. But from me for now, thanks for watching.